My name's Luke Moore. I grew up hunting from the day I could really remember. My dad took me hunting, I believe I was around 4 or 5.
Once Luke came along, I knew as he got older and he was going to be in the pit with me and going duck hunting. It was just a matter of getting to that point and without wishing time away. He didn't shoot. All Luke did was come to the pit to learn. We didn't have a dog at that time, and Luke was that dog.
I mean, we sat back and enjoyed each other and just learned the sport.
It was a couple of days before Christmas. I asked Lindsay Kate, his sister, to ride over to Metropolis, Illinois to pick up a lab puppy.
So I was 10 years old. I remember it was just getting dark, and I got inside and I got to our hallway, to the front door, and this black puppy came running out, and I just stopped. And I was like, no way. I cried so hard because I wanted a puppy so bad. All of my family was there watching, and that goose ran by all of them, come straight to me. It's almost like at that age I saw we were going to do so much together.
I ain't never felt the kind of love like this before. You took all the worries from my mind. Darling, please forgive me if I stay a little more. I can't look away from those brown eyes. And if we settle down, we don't have to settle down. Please don't be afraid of all the things that could go wrong. We could take our time, and we may change our mind. But I can tell a good thing when a good thing comes along.
Everyone says, oh, they're more than just a dog. They're more than just a dog. Goose is way more than just a dog to me. I mean, from middle school, high school, college, to now in my career, Goose has been right there. And it's not just a hunt dog either. It's every day of the year, every day I can be with him. He is my best friend.
We wanted just a meat dog, but he became so much more than just a meat dog.
I spent every single second I could. I would go to the backyard, we would throw bumpers, we would work on sitting, staying. I don't know what people do at that age at this point, but I know what I did was I went back home and tried to hang out with my dog and have fun. We tried to learn. He taught me, I think, way more than I taught him.
Even when he got into when he was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, his drive continued. And his body just could not keep up with his drive. But we did start to have the conversation of, what does that look like of someday retiring Goose and how bittersweet that will be.
Addison and I actually hopped on a podcast with DU talking through mindsets of a last season. And I remember so clearly Addison saying, I don't think it's going to be his last.
He does not act like he's 12. I think that Luke's going to go into this thinking this is his last season. He might still get a couple hunts with him the following season. He's a phenomenal dog.
He impressed me more that season than a season or two beforehand. And it made me feel good because no one wants to go through that. And to push it one more year, I was like, okay, I can breathe a little bit. He just had it in him. I mean, he was 12, 13 years old at the time. And to be able to impress me to go a whole nother season, it was just unbelievable. I also had to think, what do I want to do for my next dog? So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and get a pup. Even thinking about Goose, his last season was hard, his last hunt even harder. And within that last hunt or last season, passing on to another dog, all of it combined was incredibly difficult. Goose isn't just like put to the side, it's literally passing it on. I wanted to see both dogs and both passions kind of collide into one so he can kind of keep living through that. And it's worth it for sure. So at this point, I had made up, okay, I want to get a puppy. I want to figure out how to hunt him under Goose. I'm not even going to call it looking for a puppy. Something perfect has to happen. Perfect litter, the perfect dog, perfect everything. I was like, it's not going to happen.
So I get this telephone number from a duck, from my duck hunting buddy. So I called the gentleman.
He was like, hey, is this Luke? I was like, yes, sir. He's like, this is Jamie Moss. I think one of your wife's patients told me to call you. I have a litter coming up.
Luke describes kind of what he wants in a puppy.
And he went through all the details. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And everything lined up. The looks, the drive, everything that I was wanting was almost built into this litter. But yeah, March 23rd is when I picked up Dex from Jamie.
Luke had a special path in mind for this dog.
Outside of hunting, he's going to be at events at work. He's going to be traveling with me all over. So he's got to be top of the top.
We talked about a number of things, and eventually Luke decided he wanted me to train Dex. I was excited and glad to get him back. A little bit nervous about the prospect of it, and the reason is because I knew how good this dog needed to be. And to be quite honest, that kind of intimidated me a little in the beginning because I knew Dex was going to be center stage. Being a gunner dog, he was going to be exposed to the world. And the more Luke and I talked about it, the more I decided that I wanted that responsibility. So we set about that journey, and the first part of that journey is the most critical part of any puppy's training, and that's the day Luke picked him up.
You want to talk about putting in the time. I mean, any break between meetings, my lunch break, we would be outside getting excited. I don't want to say training, but getting excited, getting that drive behind a bumper, socializing with other dogs. So there's so much that went into him as a puppy, and it was a really weird timing in my life too. We went through a really, really tough time. Gosh. It's all good, man. We went through a really tough time in my family at that point that I got Dex. My father-in-law ended up passing away, and we were really good friends. We were best friends. We went through some tough times together, so when that time hit, we were in the ICU with him for close to 2 weeks straight, basically living in the hospital. So any time that I could get away, anytime that we were home, I could put time into Dex and somewhat take my mind off of everything that was happening, all the trauma that was happening. It was so needed in my life at that point, and not only for me, but for my wife. If I didn't have something to take my mind off of everything, I wouldn't have been able to be there for her near as much. So at a very early stage in me and Dex's relationship, we had some bonding time. It's pretty crazy to think like what a dog can be to you. He was the calmest puppy I think I've ever been around. I don't care what anyone says, but I know without a doubt God put that temperament in him for the timing, for the situation we were in. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Going back, I talked about how Goose was so much more than a dog to me. Going into that last season, I was like, man, there's never going to be a dog that does what Goose did for me. And it's so crazy that 3 months into having Dex, he hit that mark too. Early on, really early on with Goose, in my mind, I'm like, it'd be really cool is for the younger dog to see Goose work, to see his characteristics, his steadiness, and take something from it, whether it's me or the puppy taking something, but something's taken from that hunt and that transition.
Well, the point came where Luke decided that it was time to retire Goose. He said, Dad, I'd like for you to come along on Goose's last hunt. Not only Goose's last hunt, but it's also going to be Dex's first retrieve. And I said, Luke, I can't think of a better place for me to be or a more excited place for me to be and to see this happen.
So this hunt, with the purpose being the transition, allowing one dog to pass to the next. Another goal with this is to bring in a few people that were special. So I knew I wanted my dad there. I wanted Jamie, Dex's trainer, there. And I wanted my wife there, but she's pregnant. Was not feeling up to getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning to chase a couple of ducks. I called Eric at daybreak. I'm like, hey, I would love to kind of share this moment with y'all. And I told him, I was like, hey, we're not looking for a whole bunch of limits. We just want 2 ducks, preferably mallards, just to, end it and start it well. He's like, man, we got you. Let's do it. Going into it, I knew this was going to be Goose's last hunt. So we're like, hey, let's go over there a few days early. Let's hunt Goose a little bit more and go out with a bang on his end.
I've heard some shooting, but I haven't seen any ducks.
It was a little bit harder than we thought. That Saturday, Eric put us in the hellhole. And if any of you are familiar with North Delta, the hellhole is usually a banger hunt. And it was not. I mean, we got in there, we were like, okay, this is going to be pretty quick and easy. Nothing would do it right. There were barely any birds, and we were like, what is happening? Goose wasn't acting right. I mean, it was somewhat hard to see because we shot a couple teal, and I sent Goose, and for one of the first times, if not the first time ever, he did not go on my command, and it scared me a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, like that hurts.
Really didn't get what we wanted out of the last retrieve for Goose.
I told Eric, hey, we're gonna go back over to our Dexter hole, and he was like, no, man, y'all come back here, we're gonna do it right. That next morning, we got back over to the daybreak, and we went to their timber hole. It was one of the prettiest spots I've ever hunted in my life. All kinds of willows throughout. There's an open hole in the middle. Sun, weather was perfect. I mean, it was truly gorgeous. If we were to write it down on paper and draw it out, that's what it would have been. There were a few ducks flying that morning, really slow, but we were like, no, we're gonna do it right.
That morning we had about 50 teal blazes. We ended up not shooting into that group of birds. Eric decided to move some decoys around, and about 45 minutes later, we see greenheads working.
Started calling and broke a group out of a larger flock. You couldn't have imagined a prettier scenario with all those of us who've hunted ducks. You know what that's like when you hit them on the corners and they respond right, and they get in the hole and just really do it feet down, and that's exactly what happened. You had these birds come in right into the hole.
I remember being overly loud when I sent Goose. I was probably screaming. 1, because I was excited, and 2, because he's an old man and can barely hear anymore. I sent him, and just for a brief moment, it just hit me. I was like, that's it. That's the last one. Goose, being the man he is, he ended on a drake.
I thought that was pretty special that Goose's last retrieve was a drake, and he left the hen for the young pup.
It was like he was a pup again. That last retrieve, he went out to the decoys, straight to the greenhead, got it, turned around, and you could see the excitement in Goose's face and in his eyes coming back to Luke. And he brought that bird right back to Luke. He got up on the tree stand, and it was time for Dex.
feel, Luke?
Try not to get emotional. I mean, it's so bittersweet to be, I mean, from a last to a first, you know, to Goose is done. I'm glad I have another pup to go right after it, because I don't know if I could have handled him being done and not take my mind to something else. But it's crazy. I have my grandfather's A5, hunting with my dad, good buddy Matt, Jamie, Eric, and both dogs. It's pretty awesome. It's been a grind, but it makes it so much more special. But to end it like that is pretty crazy. So it's bittersweet.
This was the most special hunt that I've ever been on. And to see it happen in one volley, and for Luke to knock both of those birds down with his grandfather's Browning A5 it brought tears. It really did. It was that special. It was that special to all of us. You know, there were hugs going around. There was, you know, we were happy that we didn't. There were more mallards working. We didn't care. We had gotten to the perfect shot in the perfect volley and the perfect situation for both dogs.
Another group of mallards came in and broke a single off, and we shot him.
I looked at Luke and I said, "You want Goose to go get those? You know, it's not a far retriever. It's just right there." And he goes,
"Dad, that was it. He's done." He saw how much time we put in. He put in almost just as much time with me, and that's when he realized that he was done, that he wasn't going to see Goose make another retrieve.
But the realization, as the dad that went to pick Goose up in Metropolis, Illinois, that realization that he was retiring was bittersweet. It couldn't have happened any better, but at the same time, I was pulling for Goose, and but I had to let go. He very much passed the torch to Dex in probably the most appropriate way in duck hunting that you could see a dog pass the torch. It was just very special. I'll never forget it.
You know, not long before that hunt, I'd found out that Luke had great news and was to be congratulated because he and his wife were expecting their first child. So I looked at Luke's dad at some point during the hunt, and I said, you know, this entire hunt has been incredible, but you know, the only thing we can look forward to is that one day, imagine if Dex, the pup, gets to pick up Luke's child's first duck.
Now I get to think, okay, what's next with Dex? What can we go do? And I can't imagine the hunts and the experiences we'll have together. And now I'm already looking forward to him picking up my daughter's first bird, seeing my wife witness it, seeing my dad witness it. It's so crazy to think that two dogs have taught me so much. I mean, I value our time. I value the hunts. I value our relationship so much more. And I will venture to say it was a big portion because of both of those dogs.
I look so forward to watching Luke continue what he did with Goose and be even better at it with Dex. There are so many memories and so many good hunts ahead that I can't wait to spend with Luke and Dex and continue those memories.
There's few things I could say that are negative about a Labrador Retriever. As a matter of fact, I can only think of one thing ever that I could say about a Labrador Retriever, and that is they don't get to spend as much time with us as we'd like. These animals are incredible. They are so incredibly devoted to us, to their jobs, what they do, and to lose one at 10, 11, 12 years old, you just never have enough time with them.
Goose held a responsibility that he probably doesn't even know, but that I know. It helps me personally, professionally, hunting, not hunting. And he passed all of that responsibility on to Dex as soon as that retrieve was over. You know, there's a story behind everything. Everywhere we filmed had some sort of meaning. And instead of looking at this as like a harder moment, we're looking at celebration of what has come, the passing from one to another, you know, all of the responsibilities from Goose being passed to Dex. and it has so much meaning that I don't know if many people will see, but it's been so worth it. So here is the Goose and Dex.